Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Testing for AV services. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's currently 1 o'clock. We'll give it a few minutes to get started, give an opportunity for others to join. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us for the State Water Resources Control Board's Water Rights Fee Stakeholder Meeting. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom and webcast and is also being recorded. My name is David Ceccarelli, and I serve as the Fee and Revenue Branch Chief within the Division of Administrative Services. Today, we have several members of the Fee and Revenue Branch team working behind the scenes to help ensure the meeting runs smoothly. If you experience any technical issues at any point during the event, please don't hesitate to contact us at waterrightsfees@waterboards.ca.gov. Joining me today from the Water Board's Fee and Revenue Branch to assist with the presentation are Cassandra White and Jackie Carter. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce John Russell, Deputy Director of the Division of Administrative Services, who will be offering some opening remarks shortly. Let me go over just a few meeting guidelines. One, for those joining us via Zoom, please use the raise the hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or provide a comment. Staff will enable your microphone in the order hands are raised. Two, if you're participating through the webcast, you can submit your question or comments by emailing us at the address displayed on the screen, which again is waterrightsfees@waterboards.ca.gov. And also I wanted to add, those that are asking a question, specifically the first time, please introduce yourself and who you represent. Please remember to refer to the handouts that were emailed to you prior to the meeting. If you didn't receive them, don't worry. We will be displaying the documents on the screen throughout the meeting. You can also request a copy afterwards or access the handouts on the Water Board's fee webpage. To help the meeting run smoothly and stay on schedule, we ask that participants limit themselves to one question at a time. If you have a follow-up or clarifying question related to your original inquiry, that's perfectly fine. Once your question has been fully addressed, we'll move on to the next person in the queue. If you have an additional questions, you'll be re-entered into the queue in the order received. We value and respect all input. However, if the discussion begins to stray away from the primary purpose of the meeting, which is to focus on water rights and Sigma fees, I may ask that we continue the conversation offline. This will allow us to coordinate with the appropriate staff and ensure your concerns are properly addressed. So at this point, let's go ahead and review the agenda. So item number 2 on the agenda are the Water Rights Fund budget cost drivers, which are attachment 1. Item number 3 is the Water Rights Fund condition, which is attachment 2. And then item 4 is a fee update on our Federal Energy Regulatory Commission fees, or better known as FERC. And then we're going to provide a fee update on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, better known as SGMA. And then that leads us to open discussion. And then finally, our next steps, which is taking a fee structure to our board on September 16th at a public board meeting for their consideration and adoption. So before we move into the agenda, I'd like to pass this to John Russell.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just briefly, Cassandra and David and Jackie will get into this a little bit more, but the final enacted budget isn't quite as final as it is in typical years. There's still a little bit of adjustment that'll be happening in the fall. We've been told by the Department of Finance. We don't know when exactly that'll happen or what the adjustments will be, the amount or where they will be. Because the finance and the administration and the legislature are still doing some discussion. So there's just a little bit of a heads up that things are still in a little bit of a dynamic state with the budget. But like I said, they'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I also wanted to thank all of you for attending our workshop today. We do really appreciate the input that we get at these meetings, and we take it to heart. So thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with us today. And David, I'll flip it over to you.
Thank you, John. So we'll move on to the first item, which is the Water Rights Fund budget cost drivers. And I will toss this to Jackie.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. In the first table of the Water Rights Fund, it shows fiscal year 24-25 fee setting budget of $38.8 million, followed by the governor's enacted fee setting budget for fiscal year 25-26 at about $38.3 million. Of note, this amount does not include the Sigma BCP. So there's a net difference decrease of $493,000 or 1.3%. The second table shows the primary cost drivers of the net difference shown above. The first cost driver is state operations with the decrease of $249,000 or 0.6%. Next, we have pro rata with the decrease of $473,000 or 1.2%. The next cost driver is CDTFA, California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. This covers expenditures related to processing the Water Rights Fund, annual invoices, and collection activities. There was an increase of $29,000 or 0.1%. The next and only BCP for fiscal year 25-26, legal resources to respond to federal actions in the amount of $200,000 or 0.5%. And that concludes our look at the water rights cost drivers. Overall, the fund has decreased by $493,000 or 1.3%. And before we go into any questions, I'll turn it over to Cassandra to speak more about the BCP. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. So the one BCP we had this year, it was for the legal resources to respond to federal actions. The California Environmental Protection Agency The California Air Resources Board and the State Water Resources Control Board received $2.9 million from various special funds to support 12 permanent positions in fiscal year 25-26 and ongoing to defend California's environmental law and programs that advance the state's climate, water, public health, and overall environmental priorities in response to increased federal legal challenges. The Water Board's portion of the cost is $800,000, and they received 3 permanent positions. The Water Rights Fund is one of 4 Water Board funds that $200,000 will be equally spread to. The other 2 fee funds are the Waste Discharge Permit Fund and the Safe Drinking Water Account. If you'd like more information on the BCP, you can refer to Department of Finance, and a direct link to the BCP has been provided in the handout today. And I will hand it back to David.
Thank you, Cassandra. And I wanted just to point one thing out for, again, those that may be looking at the Water Rights Fund budget on the Department of Finance's website. The budget allocation is roughly around 44 million or 44.2 million. But as we footnote here, the 25-26 enacted budget included a $5.4 million loan from the Underground Storage Tank Cleanup Fund to the Water Rights Fund to support the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. This amount is not included in the governor's enacted fee setting budget because, the SGMA budget is authorized, within the Water Rights Fund. SGMA fee revenue is deposited into the Water Rights Fund, and the SGMA related expenditures are tracked separately within the fund. SGMA revenue cannot be used to support water rights activities, and conversely, water rights fee revenue cannot be used to support SGMA activities. So as a result, these revenues and expenditures are accounted for separately to ensure proper use and compliance. And once we get into the fund condition, we'll show how we are separating those two. But I just wanted to point out that the 38.8 million is the fee setting portion on the Water Rights Fund and to support the water rights activities. So one thing I want to point out, I want to take us back to the May revise budget cost drivers. And when we were having these discussions, we had there's a control section on here, and that control section is actually pretty minimal, but I wanted just to point this out. And this is kind of what John was talking about, kind of within the budget itself, the enacted budget. 4.05 government efficiency reduction. This basically, there was a reduction about $110,000. This was part of the May revise. This was a water rights share, or the share that the water board identified. And so this was what was submitted over to the Department of Finance. So this reduction was in the May revise. It's not currently in the enacted budget. However, as kind of John mentioned, that finance may be making these adjustments later within the fiscal year, in the fall or winter. We just don't know when that's going to happen. Again, it's looking at the amount though. It's minimal, but it is. We wanted to point it out that it's about $110,000. So again, when you go back to the cost drivers that we're showing today, that's based on, again, the budget that was released in July, you're not going to see that $110,000 here. So I'm going to pause right now. I just want to see if there's any questions regarding the cost drivers. Okay, I am not seeing anything, and there are no questions through the email. And again, when we get into the open discussion, if anyone wants to go back and have further discussion, we're more than happy to do that. Let's move to the next item then. So here we are looking at the fund condition. And looking at kind of where we end for 24, 25, again, a projection, but an ending balance of $9.8 million, which we understand is a little bit high on the reserve, about almost 26%. And moving into 25, 26, we have a couple of options here. We have an option with no fee changes, and then we have an option with doing some fee changes to help balance our revenues and expenditures. Now, before I get into these options, I just want to talk a little bit about what's going into the reserves. And something that we are currently working on to identify. And so when you look at our fee structures, and this is specifically to our application fees, there's language that states that application fee includes a non-refundable initial review fee of $500 plus 10% of the applicable application fee for the initial review. So no portion of the application fee shall be refunded once the application is either one, accepted for filing, or two, the board communicates to the applicant that the applicant made a bona fide attempt to conform to the rules and regulations, but that the application is defective in some manner pursuant to, again, the water code. So section 10062. So what I'm getting at here is that some of the application revenue, if the application isn't fully approved, that we are responsible of returning the majority of that money, the majority of that application revenue. So what we're trying to identify is going back and identifying the number of applications, the number of application revenue that's coming in, and being able to earmark that. And so in our future fund condition reports, we're going to basically have an ending balance, but of that ending balance, how much of that is actually application revenue, where there's a potential that we may need to refund that money back. And so we are in the process. We're hoping to have this done in the next few weeks, definitely before we go towards the board and we start kind of getting to our briefings. But again, I just want to make it important to note that we have to recognize the application revenue when it comes in as our total revenue, but we also recognize that there's a potential that application may be turned away and we're refunding a portion of it. And so it's important that we do identify it and earmark it in our ending balance, our reserve. And as a result, it does have an impact on what our reserve amounts look like moving forward. So looking at our two options that we've prepared today, and this is kind of similar to what we discussed within the water quality side. So fiscal year 25-26, no fee change forecast. What this option would basically say is, well, we're not going to adjust any of the fees, although we always look at raising our caps and on the CPIs, but we won't. We're proposing no increases. However, using about $2.5 million of the reserve, which draws the reserve down from 9.8 million to 7.3, which reduces it from 26 to roughly about 19.6%. So that's definitely an option on the table that we would have this discussion with the board. What it does do, though, it starts to, again, build a structural deficit in the fund. And so it's something that we would have to manage down the line. But we are trying to do our best to try to minimize our fund reserves, and we're trying to do our best to lower those into a proper level. The second option there is doing an increase in the range of 4 to 5%. And then utilizing, in this example, about $840,000. It slightly does bring the reserve down, but what it does do, it starts to balance the reserve. Excuse me, apologize. It starts to balance the revenues and expenditures. Um, so these are again two options on the table. Um, and of course, there's also, again, some middle ground in between these two. So our goal one is to ensure that, revenues expenditures are balancing out, or at a level where it's not getting too far, out of whack. But at the same time, trying to minimize our trying to utilize some of the reserve and trying to keep that at a lower level. So again, similar to water quality, we have an option here of utilizing the reserve and proposing to the board no fee increases. And then secondly, having slight increases um, in the range of, again, 4 to 5%, and still utilizing a little bit of the reserve to help um, maintain the total revenue to total expenditures in line with each other. And before I open this up to questions too, as I kind of mentioned with Sigma just a few minutes ago, um, on the bottom there, the fund condition, that's where we're representing the loan from the underground storage tank cleanup fund to the water rights fund per the Budget Act. So it's 5.4 million. And so we're representing that as revenue. And then we're showing right now, if it fully expended, it would be 5.4 million. So we're just balancing the two out at this point. So I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions at this time. I believe, Bob, you had your hand up first. Good afternoon, Bob.
Age before beauty. Good afternoon, Noel. On the zero fee increase, which, by the way, Kings River. Oh, I'm Bob Gore from the Gualco Group, representing Kings River, one of the state's largest water rights holders in a number of cities, and other folks that are in my note to the water board, so it's on the record. If we recommend zero, and we certainly will, it takes the reserve all the way down to 19.6% of the fund. That is quadruple the DOS recommended guideline for reserve fund. So I think we're safe in going to the zero option. And as far as your structural issues go, like I said earlier, that's another conversation, one that we should have, but it should be across all funds and be a policy discussion as opposed to a fee setting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Good afternoon, Noel.
Hi, David. Noelle Creamers with Wine Institute. And I had a question. I apologize, I wasn't able to make the June meeting, but on the permits for water rights for groundwater recharge, I know last year there was a specific recommendation on changing those fees. For this year, is the expectation that the proposal would either be no fee change or a 4 to 5% change for those fees specifically?
So yes, I mean, our plan moving forward with our fee increases would if for example, if we were to do a 4 to 5%, we would be looking at all structures in the water rights program and adjusting those by 4 to 5%. Or if we decide zero increase, then all categories would receive zero increase. Other than, again, we do have a CPI that we would adjust on one of our caps. So we would be looking at adjusting on that.
So can I ask a clarifying question then?
Yes.
So if you recommended no fee increases to the board, like if that goes forward and they choose that, does that mean that there still would be a CPI increase?
I'd probably work with David Rose and our attorneys, but I believe yes, because it's our normal pattern that we always adjust the CPI. And so, and there've been times when it's been lower. Until I look into what the number is with the Department of Industrial Relations. But yes, I would say right now that we would be adjusting it.
Okay, thanks.
Bob, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do, and thank you. According to our numbers here in FY 2324, the total expenditures of the Water Rights Fund were 27.5 million. It is now proposed to be 38.3 million. What happened?
So I can give a little explanation. So you're looking at true expenditures, Bob, and Eric just jumped on. So maybe I'll let Eric explain, and then I think Bob, are you aware we did get some general fund for the drought? So I'm gonna let Eric
Okay.
give
Yeah.
explanation
Yeah.
there.
No, David, that's exactly it. So it was either fiscal year 21-22 or it was 22-23. I think it was 21-22. The division specifically got about $15 million in general fund to use for drought response purposes. And a lot of that work didn't really kick in until the next fiscal year. It also included a couple of folks following up on enforcement actions and related things like that. So basically, we had a significant minimization of the water rights fund because we used general fund where we were doing drought related response work. And so as a result, we didn't draw as much on the water rights fund.
So now those former general fund expenses are being
It's not quite to say that the general fund expenses are being shifted, but a lot of that emergency drought work has also ended. So staff are going back and focusing on core workload, permitting, petitions, just kind of other core water rights work that the general fund supports. A lot of the emergency curtailments, a lot of the emergency curtailment orders and kind of related things that came out of that are in fact over. So that was the work that was being paid for by the general fund. We're going back to our core business at this time.
Okay. Again, for everybody's edification, it'd be good if this blank last page explained that with that data. Maybe next year, huh?
And again, Bob, we could look at doing something like that. I think as we mentioned through the early stakeholder process, we did, or the January, we were providing a list of the BCPs over the years of the augmentations of these funds. Looking back, I believe last year there was close to 5 or 6 or about 5 million or so. There were like 3 BCPs in play for Water Rights Fund. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was roughly around $3 to $4 million. So there's there's a pretty big augmentation there that took place last year.
Yeah, the database, CalWaters, yeah.
Correct. And I believe there's also the BCP for the hearing office also that was involved in the Water Rights Fund. So let me look online if there's any other questions. I'm not seeing anything. And no questions here. Let's move back to the agenda then. Which moves us to the fee update for FERC. And I know Parker is online and also Aaron is online.
Yes, we're here. Do we have the slides to pull up? Perfect. Well, first off, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Parker Thaler, and I'm the program manager that oversees the water quality certification program. And we have, as David mentioned, an update on our potential water right fees for our FERC projects. And I think we just have one other slide. So earlier this year, we had proposed 3 conceptual proposals, and that was in June. Those were increased fees on FERC license amendments, creating a new fee for when the board is the California Environmental Quality Act or CEQA lead agency, and then temporary suspension of fees during the pre-licensing phase under certain circumstances. After we rolled those out on June 11th in a conceptual way, we received positive feedback on the proposal to temporarily suspend fees. And that would be in the situation of a project is in pre-licensing and a notice of intent was filed and a draft or final license application has not been submitted within 6 years or 5 years of that notice of intent. And so our current plan is to proceed with that proposal for the temporary suspension of fees, and we may consider the other 2 proposals at a future time. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Dave, for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, just to recap, the first 2 bullets here, the increasing fees for amendments and then creating a new fee when the board is the California Environmental Quality Act lead agency. We're not proposing to take those to the board at this time, but we will be looking at a future date and have continued discussions with those 2. Are there any questions regarding to the FERC proposal? Right, I do not see any questions. Let's move to the next item, which is an update on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And I believe Natalie is on.
I'm on.
All right.
Hi, I'm Natalie Stork. I'm the director for the Office of Sustainable Groundwater Management, and I'm here for an update following up from the last fee stakeholder meeting. While we presented a concept for a graduated fee structure at the last meeting, staff do not have any proposals for this fee cycle. There is significant uncertainty since we have not collected probationary reporting and fees before. It's premature to propose changes to our fee structure at this time. We appreciate the comments we received on the concept, and we will continue to evaluate alternative fee structures. If you have any fee structure proposals you would like the board to consider, please reach out to staff at waterrightsfees@waterboards.ca.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Looks like we have a question from Bob.
Natalie, at the last session, you had a slide presentation and it was going to be posted. Did I miss it? Which I think I probably did. Or does it still need to be made public accessibly?
It was indeed posted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We can follow up with you and provide a link, and we can follow up with the fees team as well.
Thank you. I apologize. Thank you.
No worries.
Bob, Sarah's going to send you the link, so you'll get it here in a minute. I am not seeing any other questions. Thank you, Natalie, for the update, which now moves us into the open discussion. If anyone has any additional questions or anything they want to bring up, now's the opportunity. Or if you'd like to go back to any of the documents that we shared. Okay, I am not hearing or seeing any questions. So let's just kind of move into next steps. So we are driving towards a public board meeting on September 16th, where we'll be taking fee schedules for water rights to the board for their consideration and adoption. For those that are familiar with the board process, that these agenda items would be made public 10 days before the board meeting, which gives an opportunity for stakeholders in the public to provide comments. You can also provide comments at the September 16th board meeting. And there's also, of course, directions on, of course, how to do that, whether at the board meeting and or, via the Zoom platforms. And what happens for staff at this point is, we will start to huddle up and start having further discussion with our board members, discussing some of what we refer to as some of the kind of flag items. Some of those items right now, of course, as I've discussed, are the fund condition, the status of the budget, and potential changes that may be coming. The impacts to our fees and revenue levels, and of course the impacts, of course, of the budget, and kind of throughout the process of the comment letters that we've been receiving through the stakeholder meetings. We start to flush those out, and we also brief the board on kind of what we've been hearing from the stakeholders, not just with the comments, but of course the feedback that we receive from these meetings. With that said, we definitely appreciate everyone's participation in these meetings, and of course the feedback that we get from you guys. We couldn't do our jobs without hearing from you. I also want to throw this out here, and at any time after this meeting, if you want to reach out to us and have a private meeting, or you want us to go over any of the documents that are shared today, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Jackie or Cassandra or John. And if we need to pull in proper program staff, we'll coordinate with the water rights division and get the proper staff involved. So with that said, I'm going to pass it to John Russell just to see if he has any closing comments he wants to add.
No, just briefly to echo what David said, we really appreciate you spending some time with us today, and we do value your input. And definitely, if you have any follow-up questions or things that you think of later, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Well, thanks again. That will adjourn the meeting, and again, we'll be talking soon, and hopefully we'll see everyone during the board meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.